Friends, in the holy Kaaba, in front of the Imam of the Kaaba, all boundaries were crossed without any limits. Astaghfirullah. Dear viewers of Islamic Center, peace be upon you. A news has emerged that has lowered the heads of Muslims. In a sacred place like the Kaaba, right in front of the Imam of the Kaaba, this has reached its extreme. Astaghfirullah. Watching this will send shivers down your spine. Friends, what people have come down to doing now, even the respect for the house of Allah has been lost. Indeed, indecency is spreading so much that people have even dulled their consciences in front of the Kaaba, forgetting the distinction between good and bad. Friends, today's video will open your eyes. Two women did something in the Haram Sharif, right in front of the Kaaba, which will make you say, Astaghfirullah. Without a doubt, the heat was extremely intense in the past days, but these two women, overwhelmed by the heat, displayed such indecency that after watching it, you might think the Saudi prince might order their execution. Before I inform you further of the details of what sinful act the Muslim women committed in Haram Sharif, which made everyone curse them, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so that you can get timely notifications of our upcoming videos. Let's begin today's video, friends. Muslims from all around the world are present at the Haram Sharif in large numbers, performing the tawaf of the Kaaba. Everyone's focus is solely on the holy house of Allah. People were crying, some were offering supplications and requests, praying to their Lord, and some were such that they were only praying, "O Allah, let our breaths cease here." If our death happens while seeing the Kaaba in the Haram, then what greater honor could there be for us? But friends, no one could have imagined what those two women did at that moment. They were wearing burqas in the Haram Sharif, but left a negative impression, yet they were smiling. They were constantly laughing, walking in the Haram as if they were not in the holy place, but in some inappropriate place. If by chance anyone's gaze fell on them, they would just smile, and that person would immediately look away, fearing that Allah might punish them for looking at non-mahram. But despite all this, friends, what happened next is unimaginable. After a short time, as the day began and the heat increased, the temperature seemed to touch the sky. The intense heat was spreading. People were wiping the sweat off their faces, drinking water to somehow reduce the intensity of the heat. They were spraying cold water on their faces repeatedly, but the heat was not easing. Many women were there who were exhausted from the heat. Surely, had they been at home, they wouldn't have been as covered as they were in the Haram Sharif. But despite this, they did not remove their hijabs. Rather, they endured the extreme heat and remained fully covered. Many women were covering their faces as well, and no one had seen their faces except their mahram. Meanwhile, these two women were constantly either adjusting their scarves or loosening them to cool themselves, repeatedly saying how intense the heat was and how they felt like they couldn't breathe. When they spoke about the heat, an elderly woman sitting nearby, fully covered, said after taking a deep breath, "Endure this heat. Your Lord will be pleased with you, and you don't know how Allah fulfills the wishes of those He is pleased with." Hearing this, the two women laughed, and one of them said, "Oh mother, by the time we bear this heat, we might die. But what will we do with our desires and wishes?" Friends, the elderly woman's face became tense and she said, "You may not respect me, but do not forget that you are in the Haram Sharif now. Here, keep the law and etiquette in mind. Speak respectfully and make as much worship to your Lord as possible." But despite the elderly woman's words, the two women got up and started walking around, not performing tawaf. Soon, the heat became unbearable and people began panicking. The cries of Allahu Akbar rang out in the Haram Sharif as people called out to their Lord, frightened, tears streaming down their faces. Many people were leaning against walls praying, hoping that their Lord would lessen the heat as their fragile bodies could no longer bear the intensity of the heat. There was a fear of death. But during this time, what the two women did was beyond belief. They were looking for a shaded area to sit in, but there was no shade to be found. Suddenly, they started screaming, making strange sounds, loosening their scarves and saying, "I am suffocating. Someone help me take off my scarf. I am dying. I can't breathe." Women around them warned them, saying, "You are in the Haram Sharif. Do not violate its sanctity. Go outside, drink some water." But despite these warnings, they continued to scream as if something terrifying had overtaken them. The two women threw off their scarves and tossed them aside. They were now without their covering, and their appearance was openly visible. People were in shock and started asking for forgiveness from Allah. The women's behavior was so inappropriate that they were ordered to be removed from the Haram Sharif immediately. At this point, a woman, alarmed, stepped forward and said, "These two should be thrown out of here immediately. They are infidels. Their presence here is profaning the haram." The elderly woman's warning was heeded, and some people said, "These women are exhausted by the heat, but that doesn't mean we should call them infidels. Maybe they have some condition that they cannot bear the heat." But the elderly woman said, "No, the foul stench coming from them could only come from an infidel. All the other pilgrims in the haram smell of purity, but these two reek as if their bodies have been desecrated. They are not Muslims." Meanwhile, the two women continued to scream and cry in pain as if their bodies were burning. They were stripped of their clothes to cool down, but as they did, their skin began to redden and blisters appeared. They were in such agony that their cries grew louder. They were immediately taken to the hospital, but by the time they arrived, they were in a condition so severe that they were tearing at their own bodies and blood was seeping through their clothes. The doctors, upon examining their condition, were horrified. They immediately requested their identification documents, and the truth that emerged was shocking. These women were not Muslims at all, but infidels. They had no religion. They were sent there with a mission to spread sin and incite Muslims, attempting to corrupt their worship. Indeed, in the Haram Sharif, anyone who dares to disrespect is immediately punished by Allah's wrath. These two were trying to challenge Allah's power. As soon as they attempted to desecrate this holy place and reveal their bodies, Allah made them a sign of warning. The two women's bodies were torn apart by their own actions. They were screaming in agony as their bodies burned, and they became a warning to others. This incident quickly spread on social media, and their bodies were sent back to their country, where they had come with a sinister purpose to disrupt the Muslims' faith. However, it is still unclear how they managed to enter the holy and sacred place. Nonetheless, friends, no update has yet been given about this incident. As soon as any further updates are received, we will share them with you. Please like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Also, please confirm whether you have subscribed to our channel. If not, please do so immediately and click the bell icon to get notifications of our upcoming videos.